Hey there everyone, once again I am back with the exciting project related CSS animation. Today we are going to build a dynamic and visually stunning moon rotating animation effect. As you can see, we have the central orbit of the moon and side by side we place letter M and N. The moon orbit continuously in a smooth circular motion and creating a mesmerizing effect. And here we use flexbox to position the elements. Here we creatively style this element and place it at right position, and then just we implement 360-degree rotate animation. So let's start it and see how we can create it. But before we start our practical, let me introduce you something. This is the course about CSS animation, SVG animation and GSAP animation. It comes with more than 11 hours of content and 80 plus downloadable resources. If you are interested to learn CSS animation with great detail, then you can enroll this course. You can check out this course on Udemy. Also, you can check out this course on Skillshare. And if you are looking for best web hosting for your websites, then you can try Hostinger and use my promo code JAYANTA, JAYANTA. Then instantly you can get 20% discount on it. You can choose any plan according to your niche, but I will recommend you can go with premium pack. If you want good discount, 20% discount instantly, you can use my promo code. So let's back to the code editor. So as you can see side by side, I open my Visual Studio Code editor and my browser using live server extension, and I already created an HTML document named index.html. And with that, I create style.css file and I link up this file with this document. Now inside this body tag, at first I'm going to create a div element, div, and dot, I'm going to name it, I'm going to assign a class container, div.container. It is work as a wrapper. This container going to hold all the elements required for this animation. Time to time, I'm going to add the elements in it, such as text, moon, etc. Now let's jump into the style.css file. At first, I'm going to use universal selector star, and then inside the round braces, here I am going to use padding value, padding property, padding 0, margin also 0. With that, box sizing, here I'm going to use property border box. After that, I'm going to use font family, and here I'm going to use Arial font, Arial. Then I'm going to select body. I'm going to style the body tag. So to type body. Then inside the curly braces, the first property I'm going to use background color, and I want to use dark gray background, otherwise dark blue background. So I would like to go with dark gray. So type hashtag 222. And I want to set this file. After set this file, this is how our web page look like. Then I'm going to use display flex. Justify content, because we need to move all the elements center of this page. Some type justify content center. Also align items also center. Now it's going to horizontally and vertically center all the elements. After that, I'm going to assign a height to this page. Height, here I'm going to assign 100 viewport height, 100 VH. And I'm going to set this file. Next, I'm going to style the container div. For that, I'm going to use its class name, copy the class name and jump into the CSS file. So type dot container, and inside the curly braces, the first property I'm going to use height. I'm going to assign 31 em height. Also, I'm going to assign width 31 em. That's it. Basically, it is a square container. With that, I'm going to add a white border. For that, I'm going to type border property, and here I'm going to use 1 pixel solid, and our border color is hashtag FFF. And I'm going to set this file. After set this file, here you can notice the square box with 1 pixel solid border. Also, I'm going to define position and I'm going to make it absolute. With that, I'm going to define color color, I'm going to set font color white, fully visible. Then I am going to define font size also, font size 20 pixel. I think 20 pixel is great for it. And I'm going to set this file. Now the container serve as a style frame for our animation. Now it ready to hold the text and the orbit elements. Now let's jump into the index.html file and create this structure inside the container. Here I'm going to take total 2 paragraphs. So I'm going to type P and I'm going to assign a class, and I'm going to name it letter. And I'm going to duplicate this line. Our first paragraph hold m character and our second paragraph hold m character. And I'm going to save this file. After save this file, you can see the result. You can notice it position it top left corner. Next, I'm going to style both the letters using its class name. So I copy its class name letter and back to style.css file, and I'm going to select dot letter, and inside the curly braces, first I'm going to define size, font size, some type font size, and I'm going to make it 3.5 em, 3.5 em, and I'm going to save this file. After save this file, this is how it's look like. Also, you can use little bit larger font, it is up to you. Next, I want to position the letters. I want to place one letter left side and another one right side. For that, we are going to use flexbox. So here I'm going to use the display property, display, and I'm going to make it flex. After that, align item for vertical alignment center. Then justify content. Here I'm going to use space between. And I'm going to save this file. After save this file, this is how it's look like. Now we successfully place the letter at right and the left side. Next, we need to create the orbit. For that, we need to go and jump into the index.html file, and between these two letters, I'm going to take a div tag. Div.orbit. I assign a class named orbit to this div element. And inside this orbit div element, I'm going to take a p tag, paragraph, and here I'm going to pass O. And I'm going to save this file. Now you can notice the O is placed between these two letters. Basically, the orbit div placed between these two letters. Now let's style this orbit div and the p element which is inside the orbit div element. Now, so I'm going to jump into the style.css file. So here I'm going to type dot orbit, and inside the curly braces, I'm going to position it. And I'm going to make it relative. Then I'm going to define height and width to this orbit div element. So type height. Here I'm going to assign height 18.75 em. And I'm going to save this file. And also I'm going to define width. 18.75 em. So here we create a square box. And to make this square box circular, I'm going to use border radius property. Border radius, and I'm going to make it 50%. And I'm going to save this file. And to understand the border, I'm going to add a border. Some type border. I want solid border, 1 pixel, solid border, solid. And the border color is hashtag FFF. Now you can see the orbit div is the circle shape inside this container div. Now let's work on the p tag which is inside the orbit. Some type dot orbit p paragraph, then inside the curly braces, first I'm going to define position and I want to make it absolute. After that, top, and I'm going to pass top value 4.7 em. Also left, here I'm going to pass left value 2 em. Then I'm going to define font size also. Font size, and I'm going to make it 3.5 em. And I'm going to set this file. After set this file, this is where we place the circle. After set this file, this is where we place the O letter. Basically, I want to say the letter O now position on the orbit circle. And it gives the exact look we want. Now let's create the move. For that, we need to jump into the HTML tag, HTML file, and now below the p tag, here I'm going to create another div tag, div dot moon, and I'm going to sub this file. This element would be a smaller circle which representing a moon. Also, it's going to rotate along with the orbit. Now let's style this moon element. So here inside the style file, I'm going to target dot moon moon inside the curly braces. At first, I'm going to define height. Height, I'm going to set it height 8 em. Also, I'm going to set width 8 em. And also, we need to make our moon round. So I'm going to use border radius. Border radius, I'm going to make it 50%. With that, we need to provide a color to background color. I want to set the background color. Some type background color, and here I'm going to provide hashtag F5, and I'm going to sub this file. But I want to position this moon center of this orbit deep. For that, we are going to use flexbox property. So inside this orbit, I'm going to type display. I'm going to make it flex. Justify content, center, also align items center. And I'm going to sub this file. After sub this file, as you can see, it pastes the moon element center of this orbit. Now, let's assign little box shadow on this moon, but before I'm going to position it, I'm going to make it absolute, and here I'm going to use box shadow to provide a glowing effect. Some type box shadow, and here I'm going to use a width, and here I use this box shadow value to create this glowing effect of this moon, and the shadows are spaced equally. For the first value, here we spread it 0.6 em, and for the second value, here we use 1.2 em, and for the third value, here we use 1.8 em. So in every stage, we extend this shadow up to 0.6 em and create this halo effect. And finally, we need to work on the spinning animation. We need to rotate the orbit. Now let's create the animation. So here I'm going to make the keyframe at the red keyframes, and I'm going to name the animation spin, and inside the curly braces at 100% of duration, I want to apply transform property, transform, and here I'm going to use rotate value, rotate, and I'm going to pass rotate 360 degree DEG. That's it, and I'm going to save this file. Now we need to call this animation in our orbit. Now let's jump into the orbit div element, and here I'm going to call the animation, and our animation name is spin, and our animation duration is 8 seconds, and animation timing function is linear, and animation iteration count infinite, because I want to run this animation for infinite time, so I pass infinite, and I'm going to set this value. After set this value, as you can see, it start our animation and it rotate the whole orbit element 360 degree within 8 seconds. Now we need to hide this square box and the orbit path. For that, just we need to hide the border value. Some type, some comment out this property. So this is hide the orbit circle, and then I'm going to hide this border value from the container, this square box, and I'm going to save this file. After save this file, here you can enjoy this beautiful moon rotating effect. So I hope now it's clear for you how we can build this beautiful animation. So thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for our next project.